Sunny Dhinsey is on the Tommy Sandhu podcast. Welcome, everyone. Sunny is a brilliant film director, film and music video. If you look up Sunny Dhinsey on Instagram, you'll see all the stuff he shot with the various different Punjabi artists. I'm sure if you like your Punjabi music or Punjabi films, you'll recognize someone or many someones from all the bits and bots he's done over the years. The importance of a director, I tell you, I can't emphasize it enough on a set, whether I'm making a piece for a TV piece or whether it's something a bit bigger than that. The director is the person who's in control. And people like that always fascinate me. I had this similar conversation with Gurinder Chadha, where you just get this person who just kind of sees the vision, who understands, who's taken on the weight of everyone on set. And I always think directors have massive shoulders and they're kind of amazing people for that respect. But you know, that pressure, they're only human. How sure can they really be? And me and Sunny speak about that. We speak about this new project he's been working on all around the farmers' protest. He was shooting out in India. He was shooting the film in kind of real time. So he took a script out to India and filmed it with the farmers' protest going on in the background. So he talks about that project. He talks about what it's like being kind of a mix between Punjabi and Indian culture. And this is a great chat. It's a great chat for anybody who wants to maybe get into the arts or get into movie making. You can see the kind of pressures that go on with being and those proud Punjabis and want to know what's going on with the music scene and video scene right now. So here is the brilliant, very talented, and also very funny. We have a great connection on WhatsApp. We're messaging each other. He's a super witty, super bright, really kind guy. This is Sunny Dhinsey on the Tommy Sandhu podcast. Enjoy. And action. You're on. Lights.
Action.
No, so I thought you'd have like 360 degrees of lights all around you. You'd have some panoramic lens shooting you. This must be so boring to do things online.
Well, I do have some lighting, but it's not a film set.
So you've come onto the Tommy Sandhu podcast thinking that this is your most flattering lighting. Is that really what? Wow.
Absolutely.
Confident.
Yeah. I mean, no makeup, no hair, nothing. You know, just straight raw.
Oh, you're one of those. You're one of those. You don't shave your armpits either, do you? You're one of those. You just kind of like all natural and.
I have today because I know you have a tendency to make some crazy requests. So you know, in that sense, I'm fully prepared.
That was my rider. That was my well, if I'm getting Sunny on, I want him to shave his armpits. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
But they said that when my people spoke to your people, you didn't challenge that whatsoever. You were like, that's absolutely
already done. Yeah. There was you gave me a few options. I think shaving the armpits was the easiest one really to go with. So yeah.
I love it. Thank you. Only you would just carry on going with that. It's great. How are you? You well?
Good. Yeah, really well. And how about yourself?
Yeah, I'm all right. It is Monday. I'll tell everybody. So we're recording this on a Monday morning. This is 10:30. Is this the first thing you've done today? Because I'm a bit like, it's the first thing I'm doing today. So I've got my coffee, and I'm gonna starting with you.
It's the first, and it's probably the only thing I'm going to do today. Actually, Mondays I usually have a day off. Yeah, Monday is my Sunday. You know, you get all these memes about it being Monday and stuff. So you know, just for that reason, I have Monday off.
And so your attempt to change the world? I mean, is this your way of saying, aha, Mondays won't get me? What's the reasoning behind that?
That's it. Just to be different, just to be awkward, really. Just so we can have conversations like this.
Why do I sense that there's that inner smirk in you and you say like, I just want to be awkward. Like, and that's how I live my life. Yeah. Being a little bit awkward, just messing with things a little bit.
Pretty much that is the agenda. Yeah.
So did you work on Sunday?
But yeah, no, I just don't like Mondays. It's just, you know, like I said, I think it's because of this whole stigma around Monday being like, oh God, back to work. So I think why not have that day off? Actually, I'll tell you where it starts from.
Go on.
Shall I tell you where it really starts from? Obviously, like from in this game, weekends are a sort of. I'm same with yourself as well. Weekends can be busy. Like a lot of our film shoots and things, they take place on Saturdays and Sundays. So Monday, you just want to do nothing at all.
It's like the restaurant
while
business.
everyone goes to work.
Yeah, a lot of restaurants close on Mondays. So basically, you're saying the film business is like the restaurant business, and
could be.
And who were you serving on the weekend, or what dishes were you creating? I just was trying to carry on.
This actually, barbers closed on Mondays as well. Is that just me imagining things? Nobody. I didn't serve anybody this weekend. I mean, maybe I'm asking the wrong person about the barbers. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Yes, I haven't been to one since 1991. Do barbers still exist? I don't know. I don't notice them.
yeah,
But
yeah. No, I've
see,
just been
so
writing actually and editing. So I haven't been on a shoot for a couple of weeks, which is good.
is that a lot of alone time? Your work, because directing you as a director, editing you in an edit suite, writing you.
Yeah.
So it's all quite solitary, isn't it?
It is. I think director is probably one of the loneliest jobs, probably in the whole film industry. Especially, so I do a lot of writing as well, which I also know you do as well. So you know that it starts off, you kind of, especially if you're a solo writer, very lonely. Like you said, you've been commissioned to write a film, so you're there days, weeks, months on end writing. So yeah, alone. And then you think, you know what? When I get on set and when we've done all the pre-production, I'll be on set and be a whole team and you'll be with everybody, which you are, but that's also a very lonely environment, despite there being like hundreds of other people. When it's time to like roll that first take, everybody just looks towards you and it's like, right, okay, what are we doing? So even then, even in the midst of like hundreds of people, you are kind of pretty much by yourself. Yeah, yeah.
Isn't it?
So it is a very lonely place to be.
There's this other Asian director. Her name's Gorinda Chadha, and
Yeah,
she's up and coming. If you see her on the way,
yeah, yeah.
just give her a
I'll
little,
keep an eye out. I'll
give
keep
her
an
a
eye out
break.
for sure.
She needs a break. No, but and I remember seeing her on set, and you're right. Everyone was looking at her, and she's got this, amazing energy and bounce and this. I always feel for directors, you got to be so sure of yourself, and I'm never sure
Yeah,
of myself. Even when I come across quite sure of myself, deep down, if someone goes, "You ain't got a clue," have you? I'll go, "No, I haven't. You're right. You busted me." But like,
yeah.
how can you be so sure? This is the shot.
Well,
This is
it's this.
the lighting is right. Da da da. So sure.
It's the same, really. Even if you're not sure, sometimes you just have to maybe pretend that you are. No, I think a lot of it comes down to you've got to understand that filmmaking, like any art, is fluid. You can't have these rigid structures. You can plan, but you also need to let it, just run its own course. So the answer is, for me, it's always the first shot on the first take. It could be the most simple shot of just someone standing, but I think that's usually the most nerve wracking. Once you've got that out of the way, everything becomes a lot easier, and everybody finds their flow, and then you start to gel with the rest of the team, and it becomes less lonely. It's still a lonely place. I think the start of every day is like that, but yeah, for me, it's just thinking ahead, and the key is to know that you don't have all the answers. I think
Yeah.
that's the key, because if you think you just know everything, then you're going to trip yourself up. I think the key is to know that let things be.
And I always think people that come across like they think they know all the answers, no one wants to work with those, because I think
No.
the director, maybe producer, and probably actually production in general, they can affect the vibe on set.
Mm.
I'm thinking back to like doing bits for the one show, less film stuff and shoot stuff like you do, but I think it's probably magnifying for film stuff and bungalow videos or movies or whatever it is that you're shooting. But the vibe is created by the crew. If the crew are kind of fun, if the
Mm.
sound guys are good energy, if the assistant guys, if the makeup people, if they're all on a good vibe, which I think all trickles
Yeah,
down from you, the director. So it's
definitely.
all that
Yeah.
it's all that ownership, that energy in the room. It doesn't come from the talent. The talent are so sensitive. Oh,
Mm.
I'm calling them talent, as you know, they get called that sometimes, lack of. But that they're almost so sensitive to it. But they're gonna look to you to kind of go, am I reassured by this guy? Am I given enough freedom by this guy? It's all of that.
Yeah.
So you're. It must be like dating. I don't know. I think like being on a first date the whole time, because you're listening, you're reacting, you're trying to ask the right, because you're trying to get in at the right time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. There's a term that's always kind of thrown at me is a captain of the ship. So you've got to kind of make sure that the ship doesn't sink. Especially it depends a lot on the environment that you're filming in as well. If you're in a studio with controlled lighting and controlled, sort of like, the whole environment's controlled. That's a lot easier than, say, if you're out on a farmers' protest, in the middle of a highway in India in 40 degrees, which was what one of my films was about. Um, So a lot of it is to do with environment. You gotta, when it's all going well, everything's great, but you've got to be prepared for those moments where, it could all just go terribly wrong. So I think a lot of it is just having answers in situations for questions that you didn't even think were going to be asked, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, just captaining this ship to the shore. That's the challenge.
How into your Punjabi-ness are you?
Well,
I'll tell you why I asked that in a minute, but go on.
So before I come on to that, the other thing about direction, maybe we can go into this in a bit as well, is managing everybody's egos and demands, and all of the sort of little things that go on with individuals. We can come on to that, but yeah, Punjabi. I was actually going to say at the beginning, I do have a tendency just to roll up into Punjabi. So ਜੇ ਕਦੇ ਵੀ ਇਦਾਂ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਕਦਮ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਬੋਲਣ ਲੱਗ ਪਿਆ, so mind ਨਾ ਕਰੀ, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ, it happens.
Is that
I have this Punjabi Tourette's
really?
sometimes.
Do you really do that?
Yeah, I do. You know why? So I lived in India for about 5 years, and there's when you get there, you start sometimes thinking in Punjabi. So there's certain things I find easier to say in Punjabi than English. So and vice versa, obviously. But yeah, it happens. Yeah, it happens in the wrong places sometimes, like when there's no other Punjabis around. But yeah, it does happen.
I will tell you this, Sunny Dhinsey. Out of all the people I've met, and I've met a lot of people over the years in this game and all this kind of stuff, you get different kinds of characters. You get the ones that are like I say, properly into the. Let's just go down the Punjabi line. So there's a really the Punjabi music and all that. And then I met you a few years ago. I think you were filming something. I think I came across you some sort of set, and I thought, okay, and we had a little chat. And actually, the first thing I thought about you is I went, this is that kind of Asian guy making Asian media stuff. I thought, but he's not really into his Asianness, is what I thought.
Okay.
So it's funny you saying this, though. So out of all the people I've met, you're quite a contradiction in that sense. And actually, your sense of humor, as we go back and forth on our messages, it's actually very British. It's quite dry, and it's quite it's not very Punjabi. Because let's just be honest, Punjabi humor and actually India humor in general. When I watch your couple of Shamra shows and all that, it's quite wham bam, slapstick, in your face, wah 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 wah, kind of all of that.
Yeah.
And I know your humor is not like that. So how does that work, you little unorthodox, confusing person, you?
Is that going to be the intro to the? Is that going to be like the strap line?
Sunny Dhinsey, unorthodox, confusing. What's he really about? Does he
British
even know? We caught up with him to find out. Is it
really him?
but that's something about your connection to your Punjabiness, and your character, I think, is not that.
So the Punjabi comes from my parents. Obviously, they don't speak any English even till this day. Moved to London in 1975, and they thought, you know what? No, forget this English stuff. We don't need it, which is good because it meant that I speak Punjabi now. But also, so I always say, like in other interviews I've done, Punjabi unna di deen hai. It's the a gift from my parents, but so is English really, because they came to this country. If they hadn't come here, I would be speaking English like very funny, so both of those languages are from them.
With a French accent.
With a French. French. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. So both those languages are a gift from my parents. Hindi, just from watching Hindi films. The problem with that is that whenever I speak Hindi, it's very filmy. So it could just be a very regular situation where you're just, I don't know, ordering tea, but it will be done in like a very Bollywood sort of way. So that's a bit of a problem. So I try not to speak Hindi too much. But definitely, I would say I'm Punjabi first, and everything else.
I thought I was going to hear it. Sorry, I'm waiting to hear you order tea in a Bollywood way. That was the next.
That'll probably I'll maybe post that on Instagram or something.
Okay. So I don't. But
it's true. No, we can't throw that. We can't throw that in. Yeah, no. But when I was living in India, like sometimes with the language, it's like, you phone those helplines and it says press 1 for English, 2 for Punjabi, and 3 for Hindi. I felt like I had to do that in my head sometimes when living in India, and it's kind of especially on set, you have people speaking English to you in Punjabi and in Hindi, and I'm sure I know it's the same for yourself as well a lot of the time. But going back to your question about the Punjabiness and the Britishness, I think we're so blessed to be literally, blessed with those two cultures, and even in my work, I just try and bring that through in the work as well. Yeah.
No, it's good. But like I said, I think you are a modern kind of youngster, I suppose, living those both worlds. Like I say, in your humor, in your conversation, and even in your film references. You and I can talk about films quite a lot, as we have done, and had chats about, have you seen this, have you seen that, and the things that you love watching. So are you constantly, as being a director, are you constantly consuming visual media, I suppose, on all formats, across all sort of platforms, on your phone, on screen, or
Definitely. Yeah. Absolutely.
uh,
There's nothing that I'll rule out, whether it's musically, or whether it's written form, or whether it's films, so I'll go from watching, I don't know, like something sounds like a cliche, but something like Gone with the Wind to something like Delhi Belly, so I think, like I said, we're so blessed to be able to consume all of this content in all of its languages in its original form as well, and that makes a huge difference, especially as a writer as well. You can really bring that into your writing, and you're in a position to create something that is unique, that possibly other individuals might not be blessed to be able to create, just because of your influences. It's not something that it's not something that's come from you. It's something that you've absorbed from your environment growing up.
So on that note, do you not think you should do Gone with the Wind? Do you not think there's something
Gone with the Wind. 1 minute. It's going to register that right now. Actually, yeah. It's just before this podcast comes out. Yeah, Gone with the Wind. This is it. That's what I said. Absorbing, copying. Actually,
copying, adapting.
Yeah.
And we do see that, though. We do see across a lot of Asian media, British Asian or Indian Asian, Punjabi Asian. There might be inspiration from other things that are out there, music-wise. Even from the hip hop scene, or whether video-wise.
Yeah.
How hard is it when an artist, because you're a director, you're fulfilling a brief in a way. You're booked in. You're going, "Oh, buddy, I think video shoot karni hai next week. Does he free? I mean, you must get quite a few of those kind of free.
Yeah, not next week. It's not next week. It's by kal nu shoot karni hai. Yeah, next week is like a longer, but yeah. But it's normally ਭਾਜੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਸ਼ੂਟ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੈ, ਕਦੋਂ ਕਰਨੀ ਆ ਆਪਾਂ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖ ਲਓ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਜੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਫ੍ਰੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ, like it's usually like that. No always but a lot of the time.
ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਘਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਾਹਰ ਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਡਰਾਈਵ
ਵਿੱਚ ਬਾਹਰੇ ਖੜੇ ਗੱਡੀ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਏ ਆ, ਬਾਹਰੇ ਖੜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੁਣ.
But so what I mean really about your kind of East-West kind of mix-up there, I suppose, is we're running two different worlds. I'm finding it now dealing with some Indian companies, with some British companies, and it's just different ways of communicating. And I'm not doing they're all so backwards. I'm really not saying that, because actually there's so much progression going on in India. There's so much more happening. It's so exciting in so many levels. But what I'm saying is, it's funny for us because there's two just different ways of being. I don't know how to describe it, and ways of communicating, ways of operating, even and particularly with production. Call sheets, timings, pre-planning in a kind of a Western society, and a kind of a, hey, let's just get on there, let's get out there, let's start shooting, in an Indian.
Yeah.
Do you find
it is. I mean, 100%. I mean, so when I was living in India, people were throwing kind of scripts in our way and all of that stuff. But the reason I didn't direct anything then, it wasn't just about the script. It was about, I wanted to form a team that has the same mindset, that has the same approach to working practices. So when I wrote and directed a film this summer just gone in India, and the first 10 days were spent like just kind of molding and shaping the team, like getting them used to things like call sheets and certain ways of working. You'll send a call sheet out, but then people will still phone the next morning, location kiya, and I said to my team, the answer should just be check the call sheet. So our call sheets go out on mobile phones. You click a link and you have to click your acceptance. And then first day I went around and I said, "Oh, you didn't confirm the call sheet." And he said, "Oh, buddy, main to socha udde koi company da koi mainu message aaya." Like that was the kind of things they were saying. So it's just about really kind of chipping away, all of the sort of resistance to these kind of methods of progression. And then after, they start to expect it. They expect things like call sheets, or they expect big mood boards and that sort of stuff. So it takes time. I mean, to be fair, it's just the way it's been, like, especially with the Punjabi industry, it's quite sort of improvisational. Shall I use that word for now? So that's just how they work. But they were saying to me, so the first question when I was making this film in Punjab and Delhi, they were like, "Bhaji, Punjabi film hai?" And I'll be like, "Well, the language is Punjabi. It's got Punjabis in it. It's set somewhat in Punjab, but it's not a Punjabi film in the sense, in from the point of view that you're asking me. If I said yes, a Punjabi film, they automatically, I don't know, it's just something in the head. It's just like, okay, yeah, we can be a bit relaxed with our professionalism or with our efforts, and it's not a criticism. It's just what they're used to. But like you said as well, it's changing day by day, and it's a very young industry still. So you got to give
But
that
then,
as well.
but don't you think that in that respect, you're changing that, because there's not many people, I suppose, are going to be doing what you're doing. Look, I'll make it very clearly. You make top end videos, particularly top end music videos. Your stuff looks lovely, looks lush, looks slick. You've got great shots. You've got the drones. You do top. You work with top artists, and who have got either a nice budget, or you make their money go a long way, because I've seen your stuff and it does all look very lovely. But you're changing the times. I think you fast forward 20 years, the things that you're doing now to influence that Punjabi scene, Indian scene, that crossover scene, hopefully in 10, 15 years, you won't be doing the kind of education, I suppose, that you say you're doing now, like call sheets, which anyone who works in TV, radio, or production will say it's quite a basic thing. So if anyone doesn't know, a call sheet, what you get, I'm doing, even as a presenter, it'll be like, I'll get something overnight. This is where I've got to be tomorrow, next week, whenever you get it. These are all the phone numbers, all the people you need. These are your timings. This is what you need for wardrobe. So it's just effectively your little, I don't know, like a little guide to what's going to go down in the day or over the week or whatever you're filming for. But that's quite a basic thing, son. But it's funny that you're saying even now, 2022, you're kind of going, guys, you have to check your call sheet. You have to, so
let's go beyond that. Let's yeah, I wouldn't say I'm some sort of pioneer. I'm definitely not. I mean, this up and coming director Grinda Cheddar that you mentioned, they're sort of the real pioneers for our community, I feel. And but even beyond call sheets, let's look at things like script. A lot of my artists, talent as you call them, were amazed that they were even getting like a bound script before a shoot. So I think, like I said, it's just a slow process but gradual process of just bringing in small changes one at a time. You can't expect somebody to change overnight. You can't expect an industry to change overnight, especially one that's still in its infancy, like the Punjabi industry. I don't really bracket myself as a Punjabi film director or a British film director. I'm just a film director. For me, film transcends and it goes beyond those confinements. Sort of written films that are British gangster movies in a similar kind of mold as Snatch, and then we've got Punjabi films and everything in between. New genres, kind of subgenres, everything really. So going back to what you said about changing things, you have to be the change, otherwise you will end up changing. You can either adopt bad practices or you can try and remove them, weed them out. Especially for yourself, I'm not. I'm just, if I can just look after my own production, that's enough really. And then if other people want to take those things on board, then that's a good thing. Yeah. But I do want to give. You want to give to Punjabi cinema. You want to give to Punjabi language, because that's what I am first and foremost. Definitely.
And like I said, you've got this kind of breadth of appeal, and I think almost breadth of what you bring to something because of your East and Western cross references and all the things. And I know how professional you are. I can see that in you. I've seen it over the years. And your real love for it. You're not just pointing a camera and kind of going, let's just get the shots. Let's just, there's an artistry to what you want to do.
That's the most important thing. Sorry to just jump in there because I just remembered one thing. You said about whether you're saying, okay, either you get big budgets or you make small budgets go far. Initially, it's definitely the small budgets going far. I think in the Punjabi industry, it's a very unique thing where you're doing a lot, catering for a massive audience, but you haven't always had the budgets of, say, like a Bollywood or even definitely not a Hollywood or even a British cinema. I mean, there's music videos where I've shot with a crew of 80, 90 people, with the budgets in the beyond the tens of thousands. Or there's other videos where I've shot, it's literally just been myself and one other guy. I'll give you an example. Shot a video for Sardaj called Recede in Turkey, and it was just myself and my production assistant Vips. It was literally two of us plus the two artists that are in the video, Sardaj and the lead. So there were four of us in a car. So that people think that video was shot with a big production crew, but there's literally just two of us. So it's about planning. It's about having the love for it. You'd only put yourself in that situation if you had a love for it, but with a bit of planning, that's all. It's just planning. It's planning and the creativity.
But you say that, but I think a lot of people aren't willing to plan, and it is work. Planning is work. Planning is pre-effort, is preparing for all the things that can go wrong, having seen those situations, preempting those. So I think that work is, and I know from being on the presenter side of things, you know when you're in safe hands. You know when you're with the director, production team, you're like, oh, thank God it's them, because I kind of don't have to worry about what, you know, when they're going to film this, shoot that, or say it this way, and you just want that reassurance. So it's such a key role that you have. But coming to you said about the Punjabi music scene, we spoke to Shin from DCS not so long ago, who kind of went, where's the scene really going now? What is the scene on the music stuff? What do you reckon? You're shooting it. You're doing the videos. You know, you do that this kind of new age kind of hip hop crossover. You also do your Emmy verts and your kind of more traditional people from the Punjab who haven't left the pin. We're still very much connected to that.
Yeah, I think the scene is evolving, and it's kind of developing in many different ways. I think, first we used to say Punjabi music scene as a collective term, but it's like saying English music scene. I mean, the English music scene is loads of scenes. You've got hip hop, you've got pop, R&B, drill, trap, all of these subgenres, genres that have come and gone as well. So I don't think we should just use this umbrella term, Punjabi music scene. Punjabi music scene could be Qawwali music. It could be something like a Sandhu Musewala. It could be something like a Sartaj. We've got to realize they're kind of almost subgenres, but just because it's Punjabi, we kind of try to put it into this one sort of bubble. I believe it's developing. I believe it's evolving into subgenres of music, which I think is the way it should be. If somebody like an AP Dillon or a Sandhu Musewala, Karan Aujla doing music, it doesn't mean that someone like a Gurdas Mann or a Rahat or someone is irrelevant. It's just different styles of music. I believe it's evolving. I mean, Punjabi music, if it's down from the production to the lyrical content and innovation, I think it's a good thing. It's pushing out the language, and of course you're going to have bits of English influences in there or hip hop and R&B influences in there, because we are, as people, evolving into those areas as well. So for me, it's growth. It's good growth as well.
So definitely. So actually, a little bit of positivity there. You're saying actually good times. Is it?
Yeah. Why not? We can't just hold on. We can't just hold on to what we see as traditional Bhangra, or that. Again, that will just become a subgenre of Punjabi music, or it already has.
And actually, just to put that into kind of, Shin was talking about the Punjabi Bhangra scene, and I think I could. But you're right, actually, because I've assumed in my head that Punjabi music is Bhangra music, but really what you're saying is no. Now it has broken down so much more, but it always was so much more than that. But now what we're getting is so much more than that. We're getting a lot more different genres of Punjabi sounds, I suppose, coming through. And it's not just Bhangra or any kind of Bhangra.
Exactly. Exactly.
And from the video making point of view, from the filming all of that, from the shooting those videos, is there a scene there? Because obviously everyone wants the coolest, hottest looking, baddest video. So is there trends or things happening with your part of that?
There are. I mean, it's a very strange thing for someone like myself to say, but I don't believe that the music videos should take precedent over the music itself. I don't even think you need a hugely expensive, flashy video. Sometimes that can distract from the song. I think the video should just do justice to the song. It should be at least as good as the song, but it should be a good marriage between visuals and audio, even if it's just a lyrical. The reason I'm saying that is because I'm a Punjabi music fan. When sometimes good Punjabi music is held back because the artist doesn't have a budget or the means to make a good video or something that does the song justice. And in the same way, you might have what's called an average song, but amazing visuals. And there's this perception that, wow, this is amazing. So when people approach me, I always try and at least make a video that is doing the song justice. And that's why I work with certain artists that I'm inspired by the music. I always want to be inspired by the music, not the other way around. I don't want to receive a song and I'm thinking, okay, I need to like lift this song up, or the song's not great, and we should now just pump loads of money into the video just to give credibility to the song. So I'm not sure if it answers your question, but just my approach is to be inspired by the music first, really.
You're right.
The first thing
I know what you mean. Like let the song do what the song's intended to do, and effectively the video is supporting material, really, isn't it? But there needs to be, the core of it is a great blooming track, and then what you do with it. But then I suppose so in that respect, is your idea often born out of the video, out of the actual song? Do you go back to the essence of the song? It's going to go right. And how much of it is your idea? Or when you ask us, Nebaji, I want to be in a Lamborghini with chains on, and that's it. But you go, no, but it doesn't work, because you're talking about your love for your dish, for example, in the song. So why would you do that? Do you influence that, or do you just go, all right, do what you want to do?
Mostly, I do like to bring my idea. Well, no, like 9 times out of 10, I'll bring my ideas to the table. A lot of the artists I work for, that's why that's why they approach me as well. Everybody, like, this is a song, like, what comes to your mind? And usually the first 2 or 3 concepts that come, I'll just cast them aside. It sounds cliched, but I always try and do something completely a bit out of the box where we can. Like, for example, one example I always use, really amazing artist Gurj Sidhu, who I've worked with for probably from the beginning of his career and the beginning of mine. He had a song called Deep Obsession, and it was a drum and bass Punjabi track. And we shot it in Rajasthan in the middle of a desert, and we had these gypsy Kalbelia dancers doing a traditional dance to it. So it doesn't always have to fit the lyrics. As long as you have an essence of what the song's saying, I think that's good. With Sartaj, I've done quite a bit of work with him. The good thing with Sartaj is he'll be like, here's the song, this is what the lyrics mean, just do whatever you want to do. Literally, just you tell me. So having that freedom from an artist is the best thing. Absolutely the best thing.
So Sartaj is lazy. Is that what you're saying? Lazy, doesn't want anything to do with it. He's
clever. He's clever.
He's clever. Okay. He's spiritually detached and all that. That's because I just think okay, I'm going to say, sometimes with Punjabi music and the videos, I feel there is a desire to emulate the West in a slightly dated way. Particularly when I see some of I love the music coming up Punjabi at the moment, and I love your AP Dillons, and I love your even things from what your Diljits are doing, from even some of the Punjabi film music. I think it's got some brilliant hooks, Gippy Gurwal, and I just enjoy it. I enjoy the sound. But the look and feel and attitude, I suppose, is a kind of a dated hip hop thing. Gangster attitude. Who's the big man? Who's the bad man? I don't like that, because I don't do. I'm not a big man. I'm not a bad man. I'm quite a soft man, I suppose, in many respects. So I don't connect with that. But what I do connect with is the sound of the music and the authenticity and the sound of the voice. And I like that Qawwali, Punjabi, Pakistani, Indian crossover. And I love the fact that Punjab is this glue, this patch across these two lands. I love all that, and the fusion of the sounds and food and culture. Love it. But all this kind of gangstery, hip hoppy, wannabe bad boy stuff, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't think that's us. I don't. Well, what is us? I don't think it's definitely not me. But I don't think that's even Punjabis. That's not what we're about.
Definitely, it's not me either. To be honest, they're not kind of the music videos that I do or want to do. But if there are people that are identifying with them, maybe maybe their influences are hip hop, and they just want to kind of fuse that with the Punjabi thing. But like you said, the problem is that sometimes it seems dated or it seems inauthentic. So the authenticity for me is the issue. That if it's not your identity, then if you're trying to assume it just for the sake of visuals and you're not doing a good job of it, it does look dated. It looks a bit sort of contrived. It's like if we're having a go at people being, trying to have like sort of cultural appropriation, then we're kind of doing the same thing, but in the other direction. Definitely. So for me, I'm just inspired by Indian culture, Punjabi culture, all cultures, but I always tap into like my own identity. And I think that's definitely what we should do. If we don't do it, then who else is going to do it?
So you worked out your own identity, have you? Have you got that down?
No, I've started on that road. Yeah. I'll work it out one day.
And what is lined up this week coming up? What are the exciting projects for you? What you filming,
So
shooting, doing?
biggest project working right now is made a Punjabi Punjabi film, made a film in Punjab about the farmers' protest called The Shepherd. So started writing that sort of this time last year, and we've been filming it throughout the summer. It's actually shot on location, is shot at the protests. So a feature film, like a fictional story about a young man on his journey, finding himself, finding his identity. And so been working on the post production of that at the moment. That should be out. I'm not going to say when, but it's going to be out soon. So
So
that,
on
and
that
then
note, how does it want it? How does an idea like that come about? Because then obviously someone's got to come up with that idea, come up with the script, make that all happen. And then while the protests are going on, you're like, this is going on now. We've got to get out of there now. We need all those people in the
yeah,
background now. So
yeah.
and you're trying to film that amongst the busyness of an actual protest where there are restrictions on filming it. Or like that sounds like hard work, firstly.
It was insane. It's probably the most challenging thing sort of done after this podcast. You know, but this is happening now. Before that, so it was crazy. So our producers from West London, they approached me again this time last year. So just before January 2021, and they said we want to make a documentary. We want to make some sort of visual product about the farmers' protest. So we suggested that we can make a feature film. So again, this commissioned me to write the script, wrote the script very quickly. Some things, as you, I know you do writing as well. Some things just happen really quickly. Some things take ages. This happened really fast. So I wrote the script in about, I think it was 6 weeks. And then another 2 weeks while we were at the protest. Literally went out March of last year, started filming first week of April, finished filming in June. It was about a 40-day shoot. The only reason we had a bit of a delay is because there was that the Indian coronavirus pandemic. The situation was really bad last summer, so there was a little bit of a gap in between there. But yeah, we were there at the front line, literally pointing our cameras, into the army, police, the border control there. So we shot this film entirely, the Sindhu border protest amidst the protesters. I believe it's the only film that's been shot, the only feature film that's been shot at the protest. So that was definitely a challenge. And we had like I said, we had the India coronavirus issue, 40-degree heat, height of summer, but it was worth it. And it's when you see the trailer and when you watch the film eventually, just to be taken back to that protest, because I believe a lot of it's been dismantled now. So it's like shooting a war movie in the actual war in a documentary style, but also with the treatment of a feature film and a narrative like of a feature film. Yeah, it was a life-changing experience, definitely.
How exciting is it knowing that you got that you that's it, that's a moment in time. Now you'll have footage that even news channels don't have, and let's be honest, of a time and of a protest which changed the world, definitely changed India, definitely changed Punjab. That protest and what it stood for, and to reverse the decisions and things like that have now happened as a result of those protests. And I say protests plural because I don't know if it was just one protest that just went on.
No, there were multiple protests.
Yeah, all around the world
India.
in different ways. So you caught that. You've got that's now a moment in time.
Yeah, it's a miracle. Even when I was there, you kind of almost pinching yourself like, oh my God, this is actually happening. We're actually being allowed to do this. When I say allowed, I mean, we're not facing any opposition. Everybody's on board. Everybody's supportive. And things are just falling in place. And it kind of takes us back to how we started this conversation, is about the role of a director. You can't always plan everything. You can have the physical plan, but really in a situation like that, you have no idea how it's going to turn out. I mean, really quickly, without kind of digressing too much, when I was writing the script, there's a scene where the main character is on stage and he's making a speech, kind of when he finds himself. When I was writing the speech, which here in England, I was thinking, okay, where are we going to make this stage? Like, it's going to be way beyond our budget. But we actually shot it on the real stage at the Sindhu border protest camp. It just happened that we were able to do it. And for those things, they're kind of beyond, you can plan, but it was almost spiritual sort of intervention. It's kind of beyond your planning in a way. They're just gifts from above, and you just got to sit back and think, you know what, this is not all really in your control. there's something else that's maybe guiding
Yeah,
you here. So it was amazing. Yeah, it was just like I said, every day I was just pinching myself, wow, saying, "Wow, we're actually doing this. This is actually happening, and we're actually achieving it." And even now, especially looking back on it, when you come out of it, the other side, it's like, wow, how did that even happen? Yeah, it's incredible,
I love that.
really.
I love that about the creative process. When even when you hear about
Mm-hmm.
great songs and people say about Prince, I don't know why he's coming to my mind. Prince can write a song in like 3 minutes. Like a song that I can't
Yeah,
even think what it was now. I think it was Nothing Compares to You, Sinead O'Connor. I don't know that song, was written by Prince, but he wrote in like some of the stories like 7 minutes. But I think when it's flowing, when the energies are right, when I don't know, when
yeah,
it's all aligned up, then
that's it.
it's amazing how great that feels. Because as you know, there are a lot of stumbling blocks, and there are a lot of like you, like me. We're always pitching. We're always got ideas. You're always writing stuff. I mean, on a ratio, how many things that from what you're working on to actually you end up actually getting to earn money out of?
Mm,
How does that
yeah,
even translate? How do you deal with that? It's hard.
it is. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was just you know, there were things happening on that set or during that project which it makes you question what's reality, and whether you are in like some sort of matrix world where people are just tinkering with your environment, and making things happen the way you want them to happen. Things that were just beyond our plans. You plan like to be here, and then you just get given this, and you just think, wow, that's just amazing, and it
Yeah.
makes it all worthwhile. So made a little documentary feature as well about the making of the film, which we will release. I think that'll take people on that journey as well. Yeah, but yeah, it was life changing, and being like a farmer's son, there was a kind of a parallel going on between sort of my own little journey and the journey of this character, and I realized actually they're kind of the same. So that was an eye opener for me
A-
personally.
And how does it all turn out for your character? Meaning, how's it all going to turn out for you?
Obviously, everything's happy endings. But I wrote the script. I mean, when we were filming there, before I even started writing the script, I thought, what if we start filming at the camp or whatever, and what if the protest just finishes halfway through our film,
Yeah.
or the farmers say, do you know what? Okay, we'll accept the laws. It's great. All right, yeah, fine. What if they do a U-turn? And so I had to kind of keep the script more about the guy, about the character, about his journey, rather than the protest itself. The protest was the foundation, the backdrop to his journey. But yeah, it's happy endings, definitely, without giving too much away.
Good. And
Yeah,
how are your family? How are you? Mum, dad. You say about you doing what this business, you doing. I mean, it must be nice when you're making films about Punjab and things, and with the artists that you get
yeah,
to work with. I mean, my mum and dad love it when I'm with your Amy Verks or your whoever else. They're like, oh,
yeah,
that's it. That's golden. Is there a pride?
yeah.
Do they even understand what you do really?
They do now more than before. Like I said, parents don't speak any English. They're trying to explain to them. Before, they used to watch like my music videos and used to look out for me, like "Tu kithean?" And I'm like, "Mata
Yeah.
camera de piche." They're like, "Oh, take it, and I'm like, "Yeah, but I made this, and my name's on it."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Okay, cool." But like you said, but when they see you with a certain artist or someone they associate with, like Punjabi culture or celebrity or whatever it is, yeah, then they think maybe he's doing something right. With the film, it's funny. I showed a couple of scenes to my mum, and completely work of fiction, actors, and all of this stuff. And I mentioned some of our so like for example, one of the characters mentioned a village, and it's actually my bin name that I gave. My mum's watching it. She thought it was real. She thought it was a documentary. And then when he said the village's name, she was like, "Oh, he's not sadly printed at that." And you're like, "Mum, I wrote this." When I'm sitting there tapping away on my computer, this is what I'm doing. I'm writing stuff, or I went there and made it. So yeah, once these ones I explain, they understand. Um, but they've only ever been on my set once, I think. But yeah, so my mum was almost watching the film in a very documentary way, which I think is good. I think that generation they'll connect to it more. I'll just let them think it's real, which is fine.
Okay, but so on that note, okay, you just touched on something which I was going to go right, brilliant, well done, and wish you all the best with it. But just because you said they think it's real, that can be a problem because we go, oh, but you shouldn't have shown that. You're like, it's fictional. Or for me, even like with jokes, oh, you shouldn't have said that. I'm like, it's made up. It's a made up scenario. It's a made up joke. I
Yeah,
don't really think of my mother-in-law a sex symbol or whatever it is, or
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it's just made up to kind of make you go, oh my God, Tommy said this. And in the way you're doing it, oh my God, imagine if this happened in this scenario. But this
Yeah.
we are still quite caught up on representation. And even now, when I see the thing in the background on the telly, I go, oh, represent, like is that a good look? Is that not a good look for us in that show? If you saw a thing with a bug who was, I don't know, in a club, with bottles, whatever, in a Western club, or around a load of girls that are Western, you go, oh, that doesn't look good. That doesn't look very nice for us. Are we still
But it
obsessed?
happens.
A little bit. Yeah, it does. But are we still a little bit backward? Are we still a little bit obsessed with how we're represented? And do we need to let that go? And things aren't real. Somebody to tell your mum and others, it's all just made up. Let that go. Have more of a detachment there.
I think when you make a film on an issue like this, farmers' protest, or whether you make a film on a religious topic or a subject, people kind of assume a bit of ownership to it as well. So with the farmers' protest film, I was aware at that time that farmers and anyone who's connected with this movement they're going to feel like they own this story, or they own a part of this film because it's about them. It's like if I made a film about you, so you have to be mindful. So there's nothing controversial, there's nothing political in the movie. Like I said, it's about the journey of this character. But your question about whether we should let go, I think it depends what it is. If letting go means it's detrimental to our history, our heritage, our progression for the future, then we shouldn't let go. But if it's something that's going to progress us as a people, then yeah, we should embrace those things. We embrace the good, embrace the bad. What's good, what's bad, obviously that's subjective, but you can only do it at an individual level. I don't think we should get too worked up as a community over certain stuff, and common sense really. But it's hard to try and attribute common sense to a group of people. It's an individual thing. I think you should just do what you feel is right, really.
Yeah,
and be prepared to defend your opinion if you think it's correct. So if people are going to come to me about the film and say, "Oh, you shouldn't have done this or you shouldn't have done that," you should have a good reason as to why you did it, really.
Yeah, but then I think that comes from confidence and time and professionalism and knowing your history, doing your research, your planning, which I know you put in all the time with. No, look, I think this is an interesting chat. So, is there a title on this film? The farmer's film? Is there anything?
Yeah. It's called The Shepherd in English, and in Punjabi it's called Charwaha. There's a reason why it's called that. And again, that's another thing. They're like, buddy, like, so in India, in Punjabi, they there's a problem pronouncing the word shepherd. They kept saying shepherd. So even like my AD, he was clapping the film. She was like, okay, scene one, take Newman Pictures, The Shepherd. And I was like, so the first thing, like I said, about refining the team is like explaining to them that it's shepherd, not The Shepherd. So it's The Shepherd in English, and it's Charwaha in Punjabi. Yeah, and there's a reason why it's called that.
I didn't know that word, Charwaha.
Charwaha, yeah, biddan charne wala, biddan bakriyan charne wala, Charwaha. Yeah.
Good, that's a good word.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw that in. Right, shepherd is Charwaha. Shepherd. Well, listen, thank you as always for making the time. Sandhu, I'm going to say you've become a new one of my favorite people. I love your sense of humor. I love your banter. And also I think I just like the fact that you're so creative and you're into this particular scene. You're so passionate about our scene. You're not one of these, I'm a director and all that, and I'll do Punjabi stuff to springboard out and make it into something, Western, or springboard into make it something more, whatever, I don't know, somewhere else. You are exactly what you should be, I suppose, like a proud Punjabi who's making things for your scene and community and broader. I'm sure you make a Hindi film, or if someone said, oh, can you make a South Asian music video, you would. I'm saying, but you're proud of what you are, where you stand for, and that's coming across in what you're doing. So many people, I've met them all over the years, will only be doing Asian or Brit Asian things to get to somewhere else. And I think that comes across. I love our scene.
Absolutely.
Just on the side note, but I got to say, I felt somewhat hypocritical around the farmers' protest stuff, because I'm not the son of a farmer. My dad came here when he was very young, and he has an English accent. I have an English accent. We're brought up here. We're proud of our Punjabi roots, but I don't have that. I've got some of my mum's cousins are farmers, but even still, they've kind of moved on a little bit where they've still got the land, but there's other people running it and stuff. So, like that direct connection to me wasn't there. And I felt a little bit torn, I suppose, because I was like, oh, I've got to say and do something. And I didn't really say and do too much. I went to the farmers' protest in London. I went along to show support there, but that was more for me to find out a bit more about it. But it was quite personal, and I didn't make it on my social media. I didn't put it all up everywhere because I was like, if someone goes, so what is your connection to farmers? I'd go, oh, no, there isn't really one now because I live in East London and I can't even look after my basil plant, let alone, a jameen of land. I don't know what fertilizer really does to soil. I have a gardener who's a 17-year-old Gora kid who comes around and does my weeding. I'm like, I'm a terrible farmer's grandson. But in that sense, I think your identity, you're so true to it, and I think it is you. This is you.
This is the journey that our character goes on in the film as well. Again, without giving too much away, he's very much detached. He starts off very much detached. He actually wants to sell his land, and that's why he's going to Delhi to sell his land. But he ends up in a farmers' protest. So he follows a very similar path where he doesn't even know where his land begins and where it finishes. And again, that's another scene in the film where he's just trying to figure out, actually, how much land did my father even have? So yeah, definitely, it's what I'm saying. The farmers' protest is just a backdrop to this man's discovery into himself. And for me, you want to discover more and more about yourself and learn more and more about yourself by putting yourself in new situations and environments. That's the way you learn, for sure.
It's great. Look forward to watching The Shepherd. This can be a great. Can I still call it Shepherd? I'm now going to just
call it whatever you want. Yeah.
Just call it. Thank you. And when it comes out, let's get you back on. Let's talk about it ahead of the release, and let's have a bit more of a chat about it. Good. All right. Thank you so much for your time. But we'll catch up real soon.
Thanks. Before I go, I learned about your podcast. So before I do go, I learned about your podcast from my sister. And if I didn't do a shout out, she would probably not even listen to this. I think she's going to skip right to the end just to hear her name. So her name's Kuli, and brother-in-law Aman. They actually drive around Austria. They live in Austria around the Alps, and they listen to the Tommy Sandhu podcast while driving to all these scenic places. So you're the soundtrack to their scenic drives. Yeah.
Kuli and Aman. So if we shout out now, if we go, hey, could that trigger?
Yeah. It'll echo down the Alpine valleys. Yeah.
Hello.
That's it. Kuli.
Aman and Kuli.
Kuli, yeah.
Kuli. Okay.
Shout it
loud enough. No.
Aman's my brother-in-law, and Kuli's my sister. Yeah.
Okay. Kuli and Aman.
Very good.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for having a brother like Sunny Dhinsey. And
thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing, man. We'll catch up soon. All right, bro. Take it easy.
Catch you soon. Look forward to it. Take care. Thanks.
I heard, genuinely, this is just as a fact, I heard that if you hit subscribe to this podcast now, if you have subscribed on Apple or on Spotify or on JioSaavn or wherever you are listening right now, if you are subscribing and getting that on a regular, which means you get the little notification when the new episode comes out, fact, this is a fact. Don't tell no one else's. If you hit subscribe, you can eat as many jalebis as you want and you will never put on weight. I know. I don't understand the logic. It makes no sense to me. I mean, how's a podcast relate to the DNA way in which your body breaks down jalebi sugar stuff running through your cell? I don't understand. But what I do know, it's a little cheat to life. So if you like jalebis, then you should hit subscribe to this podcast. Oh, and follow us on social media too. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Follow us. Eat jalebis. Be happy.